This is the W5FC. Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the... This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without directions from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the famous Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. You can go to the club website, which is w5fc.org, right now for a complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. If you have an amateur radio license to be leaders. The net is 90 minutes long, usually, and is structured in several parts. We start with general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through your telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches this week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A in the 73 round. Depending on how far we get into the net will determine how many of these topics we hit, because at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we will start with short time check-ins. If you are one of those, and I'll say low power too, since we get those folks. If you're one of those too, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power short time.
This is
Kilo India 5, uniform, Alpha uniform, underneath in the seat.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas. Low power.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody, in Dallas, low power.
All right, let me get those. I'm going to need a fill because I didn't quite hear one of the calls. I got W5GUS Gus, far northeast Dallas, he's low power. The next station I got was, I believe, Kilo India 5, Uniform Papa Uniform, I think you said Mesquite. I got to turn you up. You were very light into the repeater. Could you give me your call sign again and your name if you were, I believe, from Mesquite?
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha Uniform, David.
I got you that time. KI5UAU, David over in Mesquite. I'm also going to shoehorn Philip in here, K5KOB over in Wills Point. I see him on digital stuff. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, low power. I've got you. Additional check-ins, low power short time. Come now. Okay, hearing none. We've got 4 checked in here on those. Any of you who have just checked in wish to make any announcements, bulletins, or any comments before you disappear into the ether, please come with your call. All right, hearing none, we will go to general check-ins now. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-in.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richards.
People seem shy this evening, or it could be the March Madness, I'm not sure. I got AA5AH, Robert and Richardson. There was another station that doubled with Robert. You want to come back to your call name and where you're transmitting from? Okay, well, we'll see. I will take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Delta Romeo Delta, Dennis in Flower Mound.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, let me go ahead and grab those. I got WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas, N5BB, Bill in Irving, WF5DRD, Dennis, welcome from Carrollton. Additional check-ins, please.
This is Alpha Golf 9er Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Okay, got one of our regulars, AG9SG. That's Antonio in Dallas. Welcome, Antonio. Well, it's going to be slow this evening, I guess. Let me go over to Echolink. If you're on Echolink and would like to join us this evening, please come with your call name and where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. Echolink only, please.
February 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in the Skeet.
All right, I picked up N5IMS. That's JJ in Carrollton. He's on the chat. N50F Clay in Mesquite. Welcome, Clay. I will go ahead and open it up to anyone, all modes. If anyone would like to join us, please come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, well, that's one of the slower check-ins. March Madness must be taking our audience away, but that's okay. We've got the best ones here anyhow. So let's see here. Do we have any general announcements this evening from that? They can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensing. Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and get started with announcements that I got. The usual canned announcements are here. So we'll start with the AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group. It has actually 3 nets available to Dallas. Tuesday evenings, there's 2, both at 8 p.m. One is out of Houston, and you can reach it through Echolink. Installed and you registered. You look under Groups, and you'll find it under AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, amsatnet.com, and originates out of Houston, as I mentioned. Dallas has its own live net. We've got Dallas AMSAT Net East, which is every Tuesday at 8 p.m., as I mentioned. On this repeater, Tom N5HYP is net control, and all are welcome to check in, except for the first Tuesday of the month, which is the ARC Club night. There's also on Wednesday evenings a Dallas AMSAT Net West. This is on the Arlington repeater at 147.140 megahertz with a field tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. That starts at 9 p.m. We have a whole bunch of nets on the DARC repeater, which you're listening to right now. First week of on Mondays, we have at 7 p.m. Ham Fixin's Net, which is all about food and recipes. We all know that hams not only like to eat, they like to cook. So that's always at 7:30. First week of the month. Second week is MCOM 101. That's where you get to learn about emergency communication. That's handled by Kevin, N5KRG. It's non-denominational, so you're welcome to check in. You don't have to be part of any served agency, but if you are, we would like you to check in and talk about what you guys do. The third week, Monday, Ham Fixin's Net is second helping. Fourth week is GeekNet. That one is handled by Tony, NT5PM, and it's all things having to do both with amateur radio and geeky stuff, which includes computers and puzzlers and interesting technical and scientific things. Very fun. Fifth week is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. There's usually a competition of some sort where the greatest minds win, or greatest trivia masters, or great minds who are also trivia masters. I mentioned AMSAT Net East on Tuesdays. We also have on Fridays CERT City. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI50H is usually the net control, although she rotates that around from time to time. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, Third City, and all are welcome. Then on Saturdays, we have the Night of Net, starting with TechNet from 7 to 8, which just included here a little bit ago. Skynet, that's from 9 until 10:30. We also have, don't forget the Afterglow Movie Net, which for some reason I never put in there, but okay. Afterglow Movie Net, which is at 10:30. I'll tell you about that in a minute. First and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, or MODA as we call it. That's an opportunity, this is at 7 o'clock as well, to learn about all things having to do with this club that operates this repeater. It's also one of the oldest amateur radio clubs in the country, so we're pretty modern. I don't think we got anybody who's 110 years old, well, more like 120, but sometimes they act that way. I won't say who. I. Let's see. Daily, we have the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. That's at 6:30. Learn all about moving formal traffic, as well as being part of the formal replies net. It's not a bad thing. We'll find that out. Okay, let's see here. I forgot to put in the Afterglow Movie Net info. Let me get that real quick. Stand by. And I found it. Here it is. Here's the highly accurate description of tonight's movie. Dino De Laurentiis downed his fourth scotch and water and crumpled his copy of Variety and tossed it on his huge desk. The director spoke. They're making a giant gorilla movie, and it's coming out before our own giant gorilla movie, he shouted as he lit up his cigar. It was at this point he wondered when he had taken up smoking. He shouted at his AD. I want you to find every costume rental outfit in the United States and Britain and outright buy every gorilla costume you can find. I don't care what it costs. We cannot allow a rival studio to put out the first giant gorilla movie before us. Sir, interrupted the De Laurentiis minion. What? Sir, I would also like to point out they are also making it into a musical. A musical? I want you to go out and buy every orchestra you can find. That includes the disco band. It was obvious Dino was headed into mental meltdown. Join us for, are you ready for this? I wasn't. Queen Kong from 1976. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. Oh, and playing in the background is some sort of King Kong movie that also takes place in England, similar to Queen Kong, but not anything like it. But there is a guy in a gorilla suit. Thought I mentioned that. Okay, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Now, our usual suspects have not checked in, but I will venture a call out and ask if anybody would like to talk about the Dallas, the Texas Astronomical Society. You are a member, or you know something that we don't about CAS or TAS, please come down with your call. Okay, I hear none, so I'll just give you my blurb here. Let's see, your meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month, except in December, at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. Meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. It is in person. I don't think they're doing it online. I got to fix that and update it. To get additional information on how to attend, please see texasastro.org for additional information. Meetings include programs presented by members or guest speakers. It also includes the current Constellation of the month, items for sale such as t-shirts, books, and observing aids. And you can find out more about the CAS of Dallas by going to texasastro.org. They also have observing parties every night of the week. That information is also available on the TexasAstros.org calendar. You pull that down for complete details. And I believe they have now populated all 4 Saturdays. Is there anyone at Texas Astronomical Society Star Party this evening who'd like to speak? Please come with your call. Okay, no problem. Let's see here. Let's go to National Space Society events and activities. That would be Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you got for us tonight?
Hi, Tom. KE5ICX N5BB. I changed locations, antennas, and radios. Can you copy okay?
Yes, you sound fine. Yeah, I did notice you on TechNet, or earlier, I guess maybe you were mobile. No, you weren't mobile. You were earlier at... You sound like the Bill that I know and love. Go ahead, Bill.
This evening I have been on 3 different radios. One, a temporary base setup with an antenna stuck out a slightly open window at the new house. Then I checked into this net mobile as I was moving across the street, and now I'm over at the old rental house. And my antenna fell down, so I had to go out and push it back up. The wind blew it down, and that's why I had to check the signal. So a lot of rearranging here at N5BB. Very good. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director and the member at large for the National Space Society North Texas chapter. That chapter meets on the we meet on the second Saturday. I'm sorry, something's gone crazy here on my computer. But we meet on the second Sunday, I get it right, the second Sunday afternoon of each month. So it's the second Sunday of the month at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue along Highway 183 in Irving at Beltline. So our March meeting was this last Sunday, March the 12th. And the topic was Mars exploration, past, present, and future, by our own Ken Ruffin. And it is upgraded. Things have changed a lot in the last few months, and so he's upgraded his presentation as he always does with all the latest changes. Our April meeting will be the second Sunday of April, April the 9th, at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. I do not yet have the topic for the April meeting. We haven't determined that yet. We also have events. We were going to be in an event in Irving here on Thursday night, but you may have realized what happened on Thursday night. There were 2 tornadoes that came through Irving, and so that event was canceled. It was a Women in Aviation event, of all things, at a bowling alley in Irving. So that was canceled. But we did have an International Space Development Conference, a planning meeting. The International Space Development Conference, which is run by the National Space Society every year, it's the big yearly convention with all kinds of things related to development in space. It will be held in Frisco on near the end of May in 2023. That's right, Frisco, Texas. And the dates are May the 25th to 28th, 2023, at the Embassy Suites by Hilton in Frisco. You can find more at this following web link, isdc2023 So ISDC stands for International Space Development Conference. So I'll repeat the URL, isdc2023.nss.org. And you can find out about joining the National Space Society by going to space.nss.org. It's space.nss.org. You can find out more about joining our local chapter or anything else about anything I've talked about by contacting me. Again, it's N5BB at ARRL.net. That's N5BB, like November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net. And we have events at local science library, science museums and other things. And there is an event coming up next Saturday at the Harmony School in Garland on Firewheel Parkway. There's a STEM festival, and we're going to be there. Unfortunately, I'm double booked at the Earth Party 2023 in Fort Worth. This is after the Cowtown Great American Cleanup on next Saturday morning. So there's a lot going on. I think that's everything I have right now, Tom. This is N5BB. Thank you very much. And by the way, members of the National Space Society get a big discount for the International Space Development Conference. And around the 1st of April, the early registration will change, so it'll cost more after the 1st of April. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. And since we got time, we haven't had a lot of check-ins, I'll ask if there's anybody who need any fills or have any questions. Please come with your call.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell, check-in only.
All right, John, I got you in, and welcome home. Anyone else want to check in? As long as I was doing check-ins, I got one down. Any additional ones, please come in. All right, hearing none. Let me continue. So I was looking for a topic. I realized tonight was my night, so I had to come up with something. And as anybody who knows me, I'm a huge fan of the Apollo program and everything that had to do with it. And I volunteered at a local museum that has a command module from Apollo 7 mission, first command mission. So I'm kind of a fan. And I picked a topic this evening through the interwebs that something I really didn't know a lot about, and that had to do with the Saturn V guidance system. Now, we all know about the guidance systems that were used both on the command service module and the lunar module once the spacecraft left Earth's orbit, but there's that big rocket underneath, and it used its own guidance system. So I found an article, actually I found 3 articles that talk about this. One was from the BBC, which is most of the article, Wiki, and then of course, and then another site called iBiblio.org, which includes a very detailed explanation of the computer system that was used. So I'm going to, I am not a super expert, in fact I'm not an expert on this, I will tell you a little bit from the article, or quote from the article. So this fellow named Rod Pyle came up with this article. It says, Rod Pyle looked at some of the daunting challenges of the lunar landing effort and incredible engineering feats that allowed the Apollo program to succeed. The Apollo guidance computer that enabled the Apollo capsule, actually spacecraft, and lunar module to navigate to the moon and back is a well-known marvel of 1960s technology. Less heralded is the Launch Vehicle's Digital Computer, or LVDC, aka the Instrument Unit, another navigational computer that was housed in the top of the Saturn V's third stage, just beneath the lunar module. It's that ring that usually on the manned flights was painted in a red stripe that went all the way around the rocket. These 3-foot-high, 22-foot diameter, 44-pound cluster of boxes that ring the rocket's fuselage was designed by NASA engineers and built by IBM as a separate nerve center for the Saturn V, and operated independently of the computers of the moon-bound command and lunar modules. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested, picture streaming over on the internet link at w5sc.org if you want to see what this thing looks like. The LVDC was a clever combination of digital and analog technology designed to be completely foolproof during its 6-hour service flight, controlling and guiding the massive rocket until the third stage had propelled the astronauts out of Earth orbit. It fired the rocket's engines on each stage, steered the rocket's ascent by swiveling the engines, timed their shutdown, and commanded the stages to separate at precisely the required moment. The landed 4 engines on the second stage to fire longer, compensating for the center engine that shut down 2 minutes early. On Apollo 12, the LVDC continued flying the rocket when the command module was struck by lightning twice, completely knocking out the capsule's guidance computer, and delivered the crew safely into orbit. Now, a little bit about the hardware. The LVDC was capable of executing 12,190 instructions per second. Now, that's nothing compared to what you could do today. But back then, that was a marvel. And here we go. For comparison, as of 2022, researchers at the University of California created a chip capable of running at 1.78 trillion instructions per second, 146 million times faster. So a little bit about the LVDC. Its master clock ran at 2.048 megahertz, but operations were performed bit serially with 4 cycles required to process each bit. 14 bits per instruction phase and 3 phases per instruction for a basic instruction time of 82 microseconds, or 168 clock cycles, for a simple add. A few instructions, such as multiply or divide, took several multiples of the base instruction cycles to execute. Memory was in the form of 13-bit syllables, each with a 14 parity bit. Instructions were 1 syllable in size, while data words were 2 syllables or 26 bits. Main memory was random access magnetic core in the form of 4,096 word memory modules. Up to 8 modules provided a maximum of 32,768 words of memory. Ultrasonic delay lines provided temporary storage. For reliability, the LVDC used triple redundant logic and a voting system. The computer included 3 identical logic systems. Each logic system was split into 7-stage pipelines. Each stage in the pipeline, a voting system would take a majority vote on the results, with the most popular result being passed on to the next stage in all pipelines. This meant that for each of the 7 stages, 1 module in any one of the 3 pipelines could fail, and the LVDC would still produce the correct result. The result was an estimated reliability of 99.6% over 250 hours of operation, which was far more than the few hours required for an Apollo mission. All right, write this down. There'll be a test. With 4 memory modules, given a total capacity of 16,384 words, the computer weighed 72.5 pounds. was 29.5 by 12.5 by 10.5 inches in size and consumed 137 watts. The LVDC communicated digitally with the Launch Vehicle Data Adapter, LVDA. The LVDA converted analog to digital and digital to analog with a Flight Control Computer, FCC. The FCC was an analog computer. In flight, the LVDC ran a major computation loop every 2 seconds for vehicle guidance and a minor loop 25 times a second for attitude control. The minor loop was triggered by a dedicated interrupt every 40 microseconds and takes 18 microseconds to run. Unlike the Apollo guidance computer software, the software which ran the LVDC seems to have vanished. While the hardware would be fairly simple to emulate, the only remaining copies of the software are probably in the core memory of the instrument unit of LVDCs of the remaining Saturn V rockets on display at NASA sites. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the guidance computer. The LVDC and the AGC did not actually have any direct interaction, so we may as well talk about how the AGC interacted with the Saturn. The flight control computer used 4 ways of the instrument unit in the Saturn 4B and the spacecraft interacted. The port decision signal, the status signal, the mode command signal, the alternate steering command signal. The Saturn was always steered by the so-called flight control computer, an analog computer whose salient characteristics for our purposes is that it was not the LVDC. However, the flight control computer did not operate, I lost my place, hold on, did not operate on its own and thus itself needed to be supervised. Normally, the supervision was performed by default by the LVDC directly through the LVDA and the Launch Vehicle Data Adapter. Or that's what it was called. However, it was also possible for the spacecraft to send the flight control computer a signal. The mode control, which instructed it to accept alternate steering commands from the AGC rather than the detailed steering commands from the LVDC LVDA. Thus, the AGC could steer the S4B, but some of the other Saturn stages, but not some of the other Saturn stages by this mechanism. There were only 2 others. Of course, it was also desirable for the spacecraft to be able to monitor the activity of the Saturn even under normal conditions when the LVDC was controlling the rocket. Since the spacecraft had its own inertial measurement unit, or IMU, it knew its own orientation and acceleration, and hence the Saturn at all times and the AGC could integrate those quantities to know the velocity and position at all times. Thus, it was not necessary for the IU to communicate that information to the spacecraft in order for the AGC to monitor the physical motion of the rocket and to display it for the astronauts on the D-Ski, which is the computer system on board the spacecraft that actually gave out relevant information to the astronauts. Of course, there's plenty more involving the LVDC, AGC, and IMU. If you really want to know more about the programming, all is not lost, at least from what the article suggested. The iBiblio.org hosts a very detailed analysis of the LVDC and explains execution codes, how the LVDC communicated with the Saturn V, and contains discussions by Barry Silverman, who went to great lengths to talk to the LVDC programmers. I've included the link in the notes for tonight's net at w5sc.org. For you programmers out there, it's a wealth of information on how the hardware and software work to send America's first moon rocket into orbit and beyond. So that's all I had. It was getting pretty complicated pretty quickly, and on a net like this, I think it's really hard to not have a, whiteboard up there and explain it all, and I'm not one of those people anyway, so I probably would do a very poor job. But as I said, you can go to iBiblio.org/Apollo/LVDC.html, and you'll get all that information. It's loaded with a lot of materials. Some of the outputted text information from the computer system, from the ground system, are there, and what each and every one of the commands did. So if you're into that, is definitely a site you want to see. Now, I'm not an expert, so I may not be able to answer your question, but if anybody has anything they want to ask or mention about the LVDC or the Apollo program in general, now's the time. Please come to your call.
Comment N5BB. N5BB. Bill, I hope it's a comment and not a question because you'll probably stump me very quickly. But go ahead, Bill. No, I'm going to tell you some information rather than asking. This is N5BB. So I believe if I understood you correctly, you were reading something written by Rod Pyle, probably from space.com, but maybe from somewhere else. Rod Pyle was very involved with National Space on Thursday evening. Right before the big storm, I was on a conference call with him and some other people on a Zoom call. And he is the magazine editor for Ad Astra. And Ad Astra is Latin for To the Stars, is the magazine published by the National Space Society. So he's the editor of that magazine. And right now, he's going to be speaking at the International Space Development Conference in May. And right now, per our conversation on Thursday, I'm trying to get together with him to get him to maybe give a presentation through KERA on their Think program. So I'm working on that this next week. Anyway, that's who Rod Pyle is. Been around in space a long time writing things. N5BB. Thank you, Bill, for that comment, because I noticed the name and I kind of recognized it. I thought I'd heard this name before, and now I know from your discussion and from other things on the internet. He wrote this piece originally for the BBC about 4 years ago, I think it was. I don't have the date up here right now. But yeah, now I recognize who you're talking about. Thanks for the still, Bill. I really appreciate that. Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, well, let's go on to the next section here. Now, this is usually handled by Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz is not here this week. He is at, I believe, dark site. He did mention that he was going out. I don't know. He's on a field trip, astronomy related. So I'm not sure if he's doing it for class, for college, or whether he's doing it for personal. Oh, I know what it was. The Messier 100 contest is what he's doing this week and next week. I guess he's going from weekend to weekend. So somewhere in there is the Messier 100 contest that he's doing. So what I'm going to do is pretend I'm Chaz, and that's really difficult to do because, you know, Chaz, he's quite the character. So I'll kind of read through what he has here. He did kindly put up what was up, and he also gave us a Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So here we go. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's about what is going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. And we have slides to go along with it, by the way. So if you look on screen, check the video. He has here, Happy Anniversary Skynet. What? Oh, really? Wait a minute. Do I have the right thing? Hold the phone, everybody. Oh my, this is the wrong slide set. Let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next section. That would be Brenda, who's going to do space exploration and space history. No, wait a minute, because I got to use the same thing for the slide. Hey, everyone, hold for about 3 minutes here. I'm going to pull the correct slide set down. I don't know how the heck I got this. Hopefully he didn't load the wrong thing. This is from January. So please stand by.
Sounds 318. Let me see if this is the same thing or something different. I got the right one this time. Okay, please stand by and see if I can reroute this thing. I did find the correct one. And you, boy, and we're going to go to... Now I've got it up, March 18, 2023. Let's see, we have, on flight 2, he mentioned, and almost there we go. The third quarter moon was on March 14th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On March 19th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 352,696 kilometers. New moon will be on March 21st. First quarter is on March 28th. And on March 31st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of, everybody write this down, 4,919 kilometers. On March 19th, there is a conjunction of Saturn and the moon in the early morning east-southeastern sky. On March 20th is the moment of the vernal equinox and the beginning of spring at 4:24 Eastern Daylight Time for the Northern Hemisphere. On March 22nd, there's a conjunction of 3 objects in the sky. That would be Jupiter, Vesta, and the moon, and that's in the western evening sky. Wow, he's very short on all these. I guess he thought maybe I would be able to read them correctly. Well, and I'm doing a fair job, but not a great job. There will be a conjunction of the moon and the planet Uranus in the evening sky on March 24th. The bright planet Venus will just be a few degrees below the pair. On March 27th, Mercury and Jupiter will make a nice conjunction in the early evening western sky. It's got one word, one sentence. Zooming along. On the same evening of March 27th, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction high in the western sky. Then on March 30th, the planets Venus and Uranus will only be 1 degree apart in the western evening sky. So it sounds like there's quite a bit of activity in the sky each and every night over the next few days, which is pretty cool. Let's see here, we have, and this is a follow-up on what I was asking earlier when Chaz wasn't here, but he says the next Task Club meeting will be Friday, March 24th, 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and will also be held on Zoom. The featured speaker, we don't know, and their topic will be, we don't know. Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet picked be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports in the TAS public viewing session. We now have these dates. For the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held at Fairview. The second Saturday, stargazing is held at Frisco. On the third Saturday, it's held at Cedarville. And on the fourth Saturday, it's held at Rockwell. Let's see, he says, I don't know how he would know this, but I guess he does. Stargazing was canceled through the clouds. I already asked about if there was anybody who would like to make a report. I don't know if it's cloudy out or not. It wasn't earlier, but why know? You can also check the TASS website at texasastro.org for the up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And then he always asks this question. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need any fills on any information, or do you have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call. If you have a question, oh sure, please do. So you know I would be an easy target. You could ask me any question, I'd probably have to make something up. But, oh well. Like I do at the museum, like who was the last man to walk on the moon? Well, he'd ask Boston, $6 million man, of course. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one we're given to live. Until next week, actually, yes, I will be doing another segment of Skynet in a few minutes. So keep looking up so you know what's up. There's proof that indeed this came from Chad in every manner except in his voice. All right. Let me go ahead and pause, see if there's any additional check-ins at this point. If you would like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. It's going to be pulling teeth this evening. Okay. Well, let's see here. We're going to space exploration and space history. That one's going to be Brenda this evening, WV5OZL. Brenda, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Tom. This is WV5OZL. In space news, they have evidence that Venus is volcanically active. Venus appears to have volcanic activity, according to a new research paper that offers strong evidence to answer the lingering question about whether Earth's sister planet currently has eruptions and lava flows. Venus, although similar to Earth in size and mass, differs markedly in that it does not have plate tectonics. The boundaries of Earth's moving surface plates are the primary locations of volcanic activity. New research has revealed a nearly 1 square mile volcanic vent that changed in shape and grew over 8 months in 1991. Changes on such a scale on Earth are associated with volcanic activity, whether through an eruption at the vent or movement of magma beneath the vent that causes the vent walls to collapse and the vent to expand. Next, they just revealed the new moon suit for NASA's Artemis astronauts, sort of. Axiom Space is building the new space suits in a commercial partnership similar to the one between the Space Agency and SpaceX. The moon suit is the key component that is required for the Artemis program, which will be sending astronauts back to the moon as NASA faces heightened competition in space and on the moon from China's booming space sector. The Axiom suits will be worn during Artemis 3 mission, the program's first moon landing, which is scheduled for 2025. Astronauts will get into and out of the spacesuit via a hatch in the backside. You put your feet in, put your arms in, and then kind of shimmy down into the suit, said Russell Ralston, Deputy Program Manager for Extravehicular Activity at Axiom Space. And then we would close the hatch. On the back is a backpack-like contraption containing the life support system. You can think of it as a very fancy scuba tank and air conditioning kind of combined into one, said Mr. Ralston. But the prototype shown Wednesday was not exactly what will be going to the moon. For one, the actual suits will be white instead of dark, reflecting heat from sunlight instead of absorbing it. In addition, the current outer covering keeps the inner portions from being scuffed or damaged during ground testing. For the moon, the suit will have an outer insulation layer to protect the astronaut from extreme temperatures, radiation, and dust. I have no idea why they made it black. It's cool, but who knows? They didn't ask me. We have so many birthdays this week and some really notable astronauts listed in here. Wally Schirra, March 12, 1923, flew on Mercury Atlas 8, Gemini 6A and Apollo 7. Patricia Robertson, March 12, 1963. No missions. She died in a plane crash before she was able to fly on a mission. Gene Cernan, 14th, 1934. Gemini 9A, Apollo 10, and Apollo 17. Frank Borman, March 14th, 1928. Gemini 7, Apollo 8. Michael Finke, or Fink, not sure, March 14th, 1967. Soyuz TMA-4, Expedition 9, Soyuz TMA-13, Expedition 18, STS-134, and the Boeing Starliner 1. William Lenore, March 14th, 1939, STS-5. Alan Bean, March 15th, 1932, Apollo 12 and Skylab 3. Walter Cunningham, March 16th, 1932, Apollo 7. Michael Bloomberg, March 16th, 1959, STS-86, STS-97, STS-110. Kapala Chawla, March 17th, 1962, STS-18 and STS-107, which of course was the ill-fated shuttle Columbia. Ken Mattingly, March 17th, 1936, Apollo 16, STS-4 and STS-51C. James Irwin, March 14th, 1930, Apollo 15. And James F. Riley, March 18th, 1954, STS-89, STS-104, and STS-117. All right, let me scroll back up here to history. Renowned physicist Stephen Hawking died on March 14th, 2018. It's also known as Pi Day, for what that's worth, but everybody seems to care. At age 76, the scientist stands out for his significant contributions to the field of cosmology, the study of the origin and development of the universe. During his career, Hawking became a cultural icon who tried to make scientific concepts accessible to the wider community. His 1988 book, A Brief History of Time, set a Guinness World Record by staying on the Sunday Times bestseller list for 4.5 yesterday. March 17th, 1958, the U.S. launches its second satellite, Vanguard 1. That was, of course, St. Patrick's Day of 1958. U.S. Navy launched it, the Vanguard 1, the first solar-powered satellite, and the oldest artificial satellite currently orbiting Earth. Then, in March 78, the Space Shuttle Enterprise makes its first cross-country trip. The Enterprise embarked on its first long-distance journey from California to Alabama. The Approach and Landing Test, ALT, program conducted in 1977 at NASA's Dryden, now Armstrong, Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base in California used the Enterprise, cleared the space shuttle for flight in the Earth's atmosphere, but much testing remained before the program's first orbital flight. Carried on the back of a modified Boeing 747 aircraft, Enterprise traveled to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, with a stopover in Houston. Enterprise spent 1 year at Marshall undergoing vibration tests that saw it mated to an external tank and solid rocket boosters for the first time. After completion of the vibration tests that proved the orbiter's structural integrity, Enterprise continued its journey, this time to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And if you're looking at the picture, you'll see some other Enterprise personnel Yeah, they brought out the Star Trek stars to commemorate this event. All right, back to net. WB50ZL.
And thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX. By the way, that event, when they rolled out the Enterprise shuttle, the folks that were invited, which was the cast of Star Trek, including Gene Roddenberry, they were brought out. They did not know that they had named the Space Shuttle Enterprise. They just thought they were being brought out for maybe a publicity stunt, which they kind of were when you think about it. But that was because the fans actually wrote NASA. I think it was supposed to be, I don't know, Freedom or something was the original name for the shuttle, and they instead named it Enterprise after the fans who wanted it named Enterprise. Yeah, I was one of those too. I wrote a letter and said I wanted it Enterprise as well. I was one of those kids. Okay, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Let me get that queued up. And here we go. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Pilot P. Carolyn, KC50ZT. She contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look of one particular constellation each week. Since there are approximately 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year of the 88 total, so Miss Carolyn could cover the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So the constellation of the week for Miss Carolyn is Gemini, the twin. Quoting from a TAS Spectrum article, Gemini is Latin for twin. There's two stars, Castor and Pollux, are the brightest stars in the constellation and are named after two brothers who are prominent in Greek and Roman mythology. Pollux was immortal and Castor was mortal. Upon Castor's death, Pollux asked Zeus to let him share his immortality with his brothers so that they could stay together. As such, they are together forever in the skies at night. All right, here we go. The jokes of the week. Now, don't blame me. I didn't write these. I'm just the messenger. So here we go. What did the drummer call his own twin daughters? Oh boy, this is a bad one. Anna 1, Anna 2. I failed my calculus exam because I was seated between two identical twins. It was very difficult to differentiate between them. Yes, I know. Okay, I better make these two, so I'm going to put them all in. I'm getting distracted by these lines. Let's see. My twin prefers to take the stairs, but I like the elevator. I guess we were raised differently. Did you hear the one about the twin boys born in Mexico? Once you've seen one, you've seen one normal. That one's a stretch. What do you call a pair of identical twin cats? Duplicates, of course. And finally, the last joke in this series. A friend just told me my daughter and my wife look like twins. I said, well, were they separated at... Well, they were separated at birth. Okie dokie, let's cover the stars first. Castor, Alpha, and Geminorum is a multiple star system that lies about 47 light years away. Visually in a telescope, it appears that just two white stars, just 2.2 arc seconds apart. These are Castor A and B, and there is a third, much fainter member, Castor C, also known as YY Genorum, separated from it by 72 arc seconds. Each of these three visible stars is spectroscopic binary, so Castor is a system of 6 stars. The two components of Castor A are each about twice the size of the Sun. Castor B's components are about 1.5 times the size of the Sun, and Castor C's components, which are red dwarf stars, are smaller than the Sun. In addition to being spectroscopic, Castor C is an eclipsing binary as well. Castor is notable for being the first true physical binary star to be recognized as a binary star. Phoenix, Beta Genorum, is actually slightly brighter than Castor, yet it has been given the Beta designation. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that some theorize that one of the two bright stars of Gemini may have been changed in brightness in the last few centuries. Pollux is a yellow star and is about 4 to 5 times larger than the Sun and is about 35 light years away. Pollux is one of the few naked eye stars known to have an exoplanet orbiting it. Believed to have a mass of about 2.5 times that of Jupiter. Wasat, or Delta Genorum, is deemed riddle, and this star is close to the middle of Gemini. The name may also refer to the star's proximity to the ecliptic. This double is easier to split than Castor, with the two stars separated by 6.8 arc seconds compared to Castor's 2.2. The brighter star, shining at magnitude 3.5, is whitish in color, owing to the fact that it is a type F, or white star. The dimmer companion shines at a magnitude of 8.2, and it is a K-type yellow-orange star. Interestingly, it appears to have a purple tint. To David Hutchinson, in a historical note, the late Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto only 1/2 degree from Delta Genorum in February of 1930. Next, we're talking about M35. It's the only Messier object in Gemini. M35 is an open cluster, and it is bright enough to detect with the naked eye from a dark sky site. Lower powers are best for observing it because it covers about 1/2 degree of the sky. A 6 to 8 inch telescope or larger is needed to appreciate it fully, but it can be enjoyed with smaller scopes and binoculars. When observing M35, note that the number of stars in the cluster have different colors. Many have noticed that what look like streaming and curving lines of stars in M35. This effect has caused a number of observers to compare M35 to a bursting skyrocket. In his Deep Sky Wonders column, the late Walter Scott Houston wrote that M35 was his favorite open cluster. Next up is NGC 2158. It is an open cluster and only 22 arc minutes away from M35. With sufficient aperture, both clusters can easily be seen at low power field of view, though for many years NGC 2158 was relatively unknown, lost in the glory of its brighter and larger neighbor. While M35 is about 28 further at about 16,000 light years away. NGC 2158 is much denser than M35, but its great distance renders it relatively dim in appearance, and it suffers from light-polluted skies, unfortunately. In Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Burnham Jr. writes that it may be a transition case between the galactic open clusters and the globulars. Indeed, studies of NGC's 2158 Hertzsprung-Russell diagram and stellar population have supported this idea. Next up is NGC 2392, the Eskimo Nebula, planetary nebula, visible challenge object for this month. In his book, The Caldwell Objects, Stephen J. O'Meara writes that the Eskimo Nebula appears so nearly stellar at low power that it would not be difficult to sweep past it while looking for a diffuse object, which adds to the challenge of finding it. However, even though it is small, NGC 2392 is bright enough at magnitude 9.2 that many observers note that it is easily seen, or it appears bright, which may be why it's included in the Astronomical League Urban Club list. Dave Hutchinson recommends an 8-inch scope or larger, and that it's a marvelous object to view with a 16-inch Dobsonian using high magnification and an O3 filter. With equipment like that, you're able to make out some of the structure that is noted in the photograph. The shape and the structure of NGC 2392 suggests to many the human face surrounded by a fur-like carcass, giving it the popular name the Eskimo Nebula. With a bright central star highlighting the nose on the face, some have seen the face of a clown instead, while others see the face of a lion with a furry mane. Inexplicably, Robert Burnham Jr. wrote that To him, the whole nebula irresistibly suggests the classic and unforgettable features of the late comedian W.C. Fields. And this is KE5ICX, and I am not Chad. Move on to slide 19 here. Let's see, slide 18, slide 19. There it is. There are a few more Astronomical League observing. Oops, why did that not pop on? Hold on. Oh, it's tough when you got to do it all, folks. There, I got it to work. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects and constellations of Gemini the twins. I'm just giving you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. You observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, and you can earn an observing certificate and pin in about a year. I think Kaz is going for one of those. I don't know if it's the Messier 100, but he's out there looking. So, there you have it, and that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Gemini, the twins. She says, I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Carwell for their research and words to deep sky objects they have used, borrowed, and stolen for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellationguide.com for information. Next time, we will look at Puppet, the poop deck. Where they got that from? I've got a puppy, and she should be nicknamed Poop Deck. So that's it from Chaz, and wherever he is right now, I hope he's having a wonderful time and winning a pit. So this is KE5ICX. Guess what? I get another segment right after this, so I'm going to lose my voice at some point through all of this. But first, I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
Fox 5, Tango Hotel Bravo, Clay County, Texas.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, Bill, Garland.
All right, well, good. We got a healthy check in there. I have a suspicion these are some of the folks that will show up for the Afterglow Movie Net here in about 15 minutes, but they are also astronomy fans, so I don't want to shortchange them. I've got NV5F, that's Virginia and Fort Worth, KI5KWG, Cruise in Arlington, KF5PHB, that's Brent somewhere in Texas. I heard him over on Echolink, and W5 Bacon, Lettuce, and Tomato, Bill and Garland. Anyone else like to check in? All right, let's go ahead and move on to space launches for the week. We have something coming up. It says to be determined. We had two launches yesterday from SpaceX, 5 hours apart. That's got to be some sort of a record. I think one was at the Cape in Florida, and the other one was out in California. And I wish I had that information because I would have mentioned it, but I forgot to put it in the little report here. But you can find out about that. All this information comes from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule, so you can check this stuff out because nearly every one of these flights is covered through a web stream somewhere, either NASA or SpaceX or through the agency that's actually launching the rocket, which isn't necessarily one of those two folks. Let's see, to be determined, we have a launch of Good Luck, Have Fun. This will be Launch Complex 15, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Relatively Space Terran 1 rocket will launch on its inaugural demonstration flight. This launch of Terran 1 is the first orbital attempt by relativity and will not include a customer payload. On March 24th, we have the launch of Starlink 6-2 on a Falcon 9. No launch time has been determined yet. Cape Canaveral, this one is SpaceX launch a rocket will launch another batch of second-generation Starlink V2 mini internet satellites. The Falcon 9's first stage will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. March 25th, 26th, overnight, we'll have OneWeb 18 launching from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. India's geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle MK3 will launch 36 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit with low latency broadband communication. We have another Falcon 9 launch to be determined. SDA Trake 0. This will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg over in California. The launch will have 10 Trake 0 demonstration satellites in the U.S. Military Space Development Agency. The launch is the first of 2 Falcon 9 missions to carry SDA demonstration spacecraft for a future constellation military missile tracking and data relay satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. Also in March, sometime in March, doesn't say when, Starlink 6-3. This will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. Another batch of second-generation Starlink V2 mini satellites. We talked about that. And then finally, the big one, actually, I believe this has moved to April. I got this from Aerospace Space Technology magazine this morning. The Starship orbital test flight, I believe, from Starbase at Boca Chica Beach, Texas, says it's going to launch in March. I believe it's going to be probably the first week in April, sometime in April. They're still waiting for an okay from the FAA for them to do that. SpaceX Super Heavy and Starship launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test. The mission will attempt to travel around the world for nearly one full orbit, resulting in a re-entry and splashdown of the Starship near Hawaii. Next up, Starlink 5-5. This will launch from Space Force Station in Florida. Another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. First stage return and to a barge in the Atlantic Ocean. April. Oh boy, this is getting boring. Falcon 9, O3B M-Power 3 and 4. This will be a second pair of O3B M-Power broadband Internet satellites to be launched in the media-related world, building on SES's O3B network. We have on April 7th, the Intelsat 40E Tempo will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The rocket, Falcon 9 rocket, will launch the Intelsat 4E communication satellites in Intelsat. 40E will join Intelsat's EPIC fleet of high-throughput satellites providing in-flight connectivity and other mobile communication services over North and Central America. Intelsat 4E is a partial replacement for Intelsat 29E, which failed in 2019. Intelsat 40 hosts NASA's tropospheric emission monitoring of pollution, or TEMPO, instrument to measure atmospheric chemistry and monitor air pollution over North America. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then on April 8th, we have the Falcon Heavy Viasat 3, America's launch from Launch Complex 39A. This heavy rocket will launch the Viasat 3, America's broadband communication satellite. Viasat 3, America's, is the first of at least 3 new generation Boeing-built geostationary satellites for Viasat. A small communication satellite named Arcturus will launch as a secondary payload. And then finally, I'll give these last two. There will be a Falcon 9 Transporter 7 launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The Transporter 7 mission is a rideshare flight to the sun-synchronous orbit with numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial and government purposes. And then finally, second quarter, we've got O3B M-Power 5 and 6. I mentioned 3 and 4 earlier. This will launch from Cape Canaveral. SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch a third pair of O3B M-Power broadband Internet satellites from medium Earth orbit for SES of Luxembourg. All right, I think that does it for what I'm going to bring. But Brenda, WB50ZL, what do you have for us this evening involving recent astronomical discoveries from KV5ICS.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. Tonight's article is entitled Terminator Zones on Distant Planets Could Harbor Life. These in-between regions could be prime sites for liquid water. In a new study at University of California, Irvine, astronomers describe how extraterrestrial life has the potential to exist on distant exoplanets inside a special area called the Terminator Zone, which is a ring on planets that have one side that always faces its star and one side that is always dark. These planets have a permanent day side and a permanent night side, said Anna Lobo, a postdoctoral researcher at the UCI Department of Physics and Astronomy, who led the new work, which just published in the Astrophysical Journal. Lobo added that such planets are particularly common because they exist around stars that make up about 70% of the stars seen in the night sky, so-called M-dwarf stars, which are relatively dimmer than our sun. The Terminator is the dividing line between day and night sides of the planet. Water, said Lobo, because liquid water, as far as scientists know, is an essential ingredient for life. On the dark sides of Terminator planets, perpetual night would yield plummeting temperatures that could cause any water to be frozen in ice. This side of the planet always facing its star could be too hot for water to remain in the open for long. This is a planet where the day side can be scorching hot, well beyond habitability, and the night side is going to be freezing, potentially covered in ice. You could have large glaciers on the night side, Lobo said. Lobo, alongside Mawa Shields, UCI Associate Professor of Physics and Astronomy, modeled the climate of Terminator planets using software typically used to model our own planet's climate, but with a few adjustments, including slowing down planetary rotation. It's believed to be the first time astronomers have been able to show that such planets can sustain habitable climates confined to this Terminator region. Now, historically, researchers have mostly studied ocean-covered exoplanets in their search for candidates for habitability. But now that Lobo and her team have shown that Terminator planets are also viable refuges for life, it increases the options life-hunting astronomers have to choose from. We're trying to draw attention to more water-limited planets, which, despite not having widespread oceans, could have lakes or other smaller bodies of liquid water, and these climates could actually be very promising, Lobo said. The key to the finding, Lobo added, was pinpointing exactly what kind of Terminator zone planet can retain liquid water. If the planet is mostly covered in water, then the water facing the star, the team found, would likely evaporate and cover the entire planet in a thick layer of vapor. But if there's land, this effect shouldn't occur. Anna has shown that if there's a lot of land on the planet, the scenario we call Terminator habitability can exist a lot more easily, said Shields. These new and exotic habitability states our team is uncovering are no longer stuff of science fiction. Anna has done the work to show that such states can be climatically stable. Recognizing Terminator zones as potential harbors for life also means that astronomers will need to adjust the way they study exoplanet climates for signs of life, because the biosignatures life creates may only be present in specific parts of the planet's atmosphere. The work will also help inform future efforts by teams using telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope or the Large Ultraviolet Optical Infrared Surveyor Telescope currently in development at NASA, as they search for planets that may host extraterrestrial life. by exploring these exotic climate states, we increase our chances of finding and properly identifying a habitable planet in the near future, said Lobo. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net. This is WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX and you have control for tonight's Skynet. Well, let's see here. It's 10:25. Do I really want to keep talking? Probably not. I do want to recognize WD5BPX. That's Bobby over in Wills Point. I got you checked into the digital world. I'll take any final check-ins at this point. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Echo 5, Delta Kilo Victor, Scott, Seagoville.
And I got KE5DKV, Scott, over in Seagoville. It's good to hear you, Scott. One of these days we got to get together. I haven't seen you in a number of years. I've heard you on the repeater lately. But Scott and I were buddies. We helped to build the trailer for a year, the trailer that the DARC uses. And we spent a lot of Saturdays together during that time. All right, I'm not going to belabor the point at this juncture, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out unless anyone has, let me ask this, does anybody have any questions or remarks they want to give before we close the net? Please come with your call. All right, we'll go ahead and close it. Tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air, and that includes me. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. Mostly space exploration, because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for folks to be net controls or to provide presentations to this net and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and on Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the club website, which is whiskey5friedchicken.org, w5fc.org,
Normal
at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Com, and I'll be closing the net at 22:28 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, that's not all. We'll be coming back, let's say, in about 5 minutes, and we'll be discussing tonight's movie from 1976 called Queen Kong. Yes, there was a movie called that, and it will be most interesting to see what people have to say about it. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. See all that. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, it's time for our last net of the evening, and this one is the Afterglow Movie Net. Now, most of you know what that is, and many of you are up very late at night, after 10:30. For me, 9 o'clock is my bedtime, and it's now 10:34, which means there's a possibility that I may fall asleep, and I have, even while actually doing a net. And people would come back and give an explanation, usually a long dissertation about the movie that we're talking about, and I've fallen into a confused slumber. So don't be surprised if there's dead air and you don't hear me respond affirmatively or even negatively to any of your comments because I am in slumberland. That's a possibility tonight, but we'll see. Because tonight's movie is the exciting, the thrilling, the 1976 fantastical film called Queen Kong. Not King Kong, which also came out that year as a remake. This one is called Queen Kong. Also a remake, but kind of strange. So let me read the very short synopses here, and then after that I will take check-in. And then we'll play the game that we always play every Saturday night. We ask, after you check in, have you seen the movie? And if you have, we'll ask you the following questions in subsequent rounds. 1, what did you think about the plot? 2, what did you think of the acting or the actors in the film? 3, technical or special effects. How did those work for you? And that can also include, depending on time, a musical score, sound effects, photography, anything along those lines. Or if that doesn't work for you and you found something else to say about the movie, you can go ahead and do that in our final round. So here we go. Let's get started. I'll read you what it says here from Wikipedia. It says Queen Kong is 1976 British-German adventure comedy parodying King Kong. The film was never released theatrically in the United Kingdom due to its legal action by Dino De Laurentiis, the producer of the 1976 King Kong remake. Got a limited release in Italy and Germany. The film has since resurfaced on DVD, and of course you can find it on YouTube. The film has a cult following in Japan. Of course it would. In 1998, a troupe of Japanese comedians produced their own Japanese dialogue for the film in the similar spirit of Woody Allen's What's Up, Tiger Lily. This version of the new Japanese dialogue was released on DVD in 2001. The film was novelized by James Moffat and published by Everest Books in 1977. Shot at Shepperton Studios, of all places, and on location around London and New Haven. In addition, miniature sets were created utilizing the scale model of London and the now long-defunct Bournemouth theme park in Tuctonia, whatever that is. So I'm now going to take check-ins at this point. If you'd like to join us this evening, I would like you to come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Queen Kong? Now remember, even if you didn't see it, that does not disqualify you from checking in. We'd kind of like to know who's out there. But we might ask you a question at some point. Would you be willing to watch this film without being paid? That would be an interesting question, don't you think? So here we go. I will take check-ins now. Please come with your call sign, name, and did you see tonight's movie of the week, Queen Kong?
This is N5BB. I did not see the movie, Bill and Irving.
Well, if no one else will admit to it, I will. W5BLT, Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, Bill, Garland.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, in Fort Worth. I, believe it or not, did not have time to see the movie. I completely intended to see it and did not. So I will listen and comment as requested in D5F.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those three. I've got N5BB, Bill and Irving. No, he did not see it. Bad Bill. Bad Bill. W5BLT, Bill and Garland. Yes, he did see it. Good Bill. Good Bill. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Bad Virginia. She didn't see the movie. And I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now. I need your call sign, your name, and did you see Queen Kong from 1976?
This is WB5OZL, Brenda. I did see it. Somebody tied me to a chair and wouldn't let me go, and I didn't even get to go to sleep. I saw the whole sorry mess.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Okay, we picked up one more. We got KV9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth, and my hat's off to you, Sean. You always watch all of our fine films, and I'm sure there's some sort of medical condition for that, and it could be fixed, but we thank you, as always, for your due diligence and willingness to see this film, the film of the week, every single week. Anyone else want to check in at this point? Please come down with your call, your name. Did you see Queen Kong from 1976?
WV5OZL, Brenda, I did see it.
Oops, I'm sorry. I did have you written down, but I had the little marker where I divided in the wrong spot. So WV5OZL, Miss Brenda, I got you down for having seen the movie. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I have a feeling we'll get probably some latecomers in here, maybe Cruz and some others. We'll see what happens. I've only got 4 people that have seen it so far, so let's go ahead and get started with Bill, W5BLT. Bill. You saw the film, Queen Kong. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICS?
It was probably one of the strangest movies I've seen. I kept thinking that they wanted to be kind of like a Monty Python or something, but I don't know. It just didn't do a lot for me. Although it was better than some of the silent films I've watched, because at least there was dialogue. It was an interesting plot to instead have a female version of King Kong, only Queen Kong, and probably in that era, talking about the differences between men and women. So I always try to look at that from a historical standpoint, what was going on in the statement the film was making. But as far as entertainment value, once was enough for me. And I actually watched it a couple of weeks ago because I got the dates wrong on the movie. So I actually got it in probably about 4 years, 4 weeks back or so. So anyway, yeah, it was okay. I get the plot. I get that it was kind of a reversal and maybe a statement on, maybe on how women have been treated and things like that, and maybe they were trying to do a comedic portrayal of it. But I was glad I could speed it up on twice the normal rate. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. And yes, for those of you who value your time, but still want to watch the movies, there's always a good way, and I do this with my training classes that I must take, and that is that you can usually, if you look, especially if it's on YouTube, you can increase the speed of the film so you can reduce your eye time watching the film. Because let's face it, there are other things you could be doing with your life, like watching paint dry, or watching a test pattern, or, heaven forbid, golf. which, of course, is more interesting than this film. But at any rate, very good point, Bill, and thank you for that viewing tip. All right, now I'm going to skip on down because I'm going to come back to you folks who've not seen the film here in just a little bit and tell you all about what you're missing. Next up is Brenda, WE50ZL. Brenda, what did you think about the plot for our fine film this week, Queen Kong?
This woman, supposed film producer, lures this love interest, this guy, who, in my opinion, he wasn't such hot stuff, but she's going to make a movie in Africa, and there's a giant gorilla there who falls in love with the guy. So it's like we've seen this movie before somehow, and but what made it so special? All the girls in their little bikinis dancing, the musical numbers that were totally out of place, made no sense whatsoever. The just totally off-the-wall comments, like the woman saying about the gorilla and her boyfriend. Oh, maybe they'd like a threesome. Excuse me? Just, you're reeling from one strange thing and then they hit you with another. Truly one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen in my life. And it honestly wasn't even bizarre enough to be entertaining. It was just stupid. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Well, good, Brenda. I'm glad you enjoyed the film. It's obvious that you found it engaging, interesting, with a lot of character development, story, twists, and magical special effects. I'll move on to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about our film and the plot from KB5I6?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, plot. This was, pretty rough. We start with a plot where, she wants to find, a guy that's the perfect guy that's supposed to be sensitive but yet strong when he needs to be, so she goes out and finds a thief. So right from the beginning that it's kind of weird. And the overall concept of it, we had a lot of comedies in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. We had movies obviously making fun of Star Wars, cowboy movies, we had the Hot Shots making fun of Top Gun. We had a lot of those kind of movies, which is kind of off-the-wall comedy. But all of those were better than this one, unfortunately. The idea of, the reversal of, the female, gorilla and the guy that was helpless that had to be saved by the women, it seems like overall, I can see how they sold it to the studios being a potentially great comedy. The concept was there, but unfortunately the writing was just bad. Some of the humor, I tried to watch this, like Bill, I tried to think about what was the mindset in the 70s, I found this funny in the 70s. And I don't know that I would have even in the 70s. The comedy was just, comedy is actually hard. Unfortunately, even some of the really funny comedies that are well-liked never get any kind of real recognition. But to truly be funny, it requires great timing, and it requires, to make it feel true, effortless. It needs to feel like it really happened. And a lot of and it's hard to do that. And that was one of the things that was off in this movie, is the timing was just off. Nothing felt natural at all about any of the jokes, and it was just really bad. I mean, the jokes were bad, but on top of it, the timing just wasn't good, even on the physical comedy. So they kind of missed it on all cylinders on this one. And even though comedies, once again, are very subjective, and I've said this many times, everybody's got different humors and what they like, but this one just, even on some other comedies that we've watched, usually there's at least one or two jokes that at least make you smile or chuckle. This one, unfortunately for me, just kind of missed them all the time. And even a few of the jokes were kind of offensive. This was just kind of a hard one to watch. About two-thirds of the way through, I was kind of starting to look at the watch and going, okay, when's this one going to be over with? Because unfortunately, this one just, I just didn't find this one funny, and it really was a comedy. Even though I do think there was, like Bill said, there was an undertone of, trying to talk about women's rights, which was happening a lot in the 70s, and the statement of, women should have equal rights, and they were not treated fairly, and in some cases still aren't. And, I think that was one of the big focuses of this movie, but they tried to kind of cover it with a comedy, but unfortunately the comedy was just so bad, I don't know that anybody would want to watch this movie, so their point would never get across. The overall idea, I could kind of see what they were thinking when they came up with it, but unfortunately the writers just failed in actually writing good comedy to go with it. That's really about all I got to say about this one. Back to net. This is KB9, that's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. I think you make some very good points in all of that. You make it here and just follow up with some of what you said as well. Anyone else want to join us this evening? We're at the bottom of this list. If you'd like to join us, we're talking about Queen Kong from 1976. That's our Afterglow movie that was assigned this week. If you'd like to discuss it, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? People are holding off. That will come back here in a little bit. We'll see. Some people like to combine everything in one run, so we'll see here in a little bit. All right, my thoughts on the film. I agree with everyone. This is not very good as a comedy. Now, when we picked it, I mentioned before, films are picked not necessarily because they're good or bad, although that does happen with the better-known films. But those that are unknown, like this one, or have never seen it before, they get picked and you go, all right, it sounds like an interesting plot or different or something like that. But in reality, it ends up being terrible. Well, we have somebody to blame, and it's not Brenda this week. It's actually one of my coworkers, the fellow that actually has made a film himself that we have watched called Blood on the Brazos, which everybody hated. Well, he laughed and chuckled and said, I understand. And said, but I had one of the world's longest final act scores in the history of motion pictures. I agree with him. I don't think anybody could have made Blood on the Brazos any longer than he could have with the 9 million people that die in the shootout in the streets below, in the west, somewhere in Texas somewhere. He's very right about that. But in this film, of course, and he suggested it, he thought it was kind of strange and unusual, and it is strange and unusual, which kind of fits his profile anyway. And my thought was, okay, you're doing a comedy, and actually there were some interesting groundbreaking things that happened. You saw the singing nun singing on the airplane. The big airplanes, the little airplanes, the airplanes would be singing and all of that. Well, we did have a singing nun in Airplane, which came out, 4 years later? 4 or 5 years later? So there's that. Spoofing became really popular in the 80s, not so much in the 70s, although they did exist, but mostly in the 80s. We got most of those tongue-in-cheek, very obvious, funny films, usually by the Zucker brothers, but they did exist. And really in the late 70s, too, those same people did things like Groove Tube and what was the other one? There was another one, I can't think of the name right now. But they were all send-ups, and they were fun. You've got to know your material. That's really what you've got to know. You've got to be able to know popular culture to be able to actually do something like this. They did a thing in there where they had, the bagpipes. They were talking about bagpipes and the mysterious, the tribute to bagpipes. It would seem to me that there would be a grand opportunity to do something with that. Virginia can tell us how funny bagpipes are because she's a bagpipe player. So I will ask her about that on this next round. But it seemed to me like there was a really great opportunity to make some funnies about that memorial that they had put up on the island. But nothing came about. Some of the other jokes are very obvious jokes that aren't really all that funny. Humor has to intersect on two levels. One is on the obvious, or the perceived obvious, and then it makes a right turn or is intersected by something completely different. And I've used this illustration before, but it works, and it's an old joke, but it tells you how humor works. And that is, the guy says, well, I came here and I couldn't sleep at all last night. It was very difficult. There was a woman banging on my door all night long. Finally, I had to get up and let her out. So that's an example of something that's funny. You get this idea in your head of what it's supposed to be, and it turns out to be something else. But if you don't have that transaction or that intersection between reality and absurdity, you don't get the funny part. And so the jokes don't come out, they come out flat. And that's exactly what happened here. The jokes were not funny because there was no insight, no new way to look at it, no Dutch angle, so to speak, to the film. And comedy needs that in order to be funny for the rest of us. We've got 5 minutes. I have a feeling this net's going to go fairly quickly. Now, I don't know if anybody saw last tonight because there was the game on and I was doing the net, but there was a King Kong movie in London. And I'm thinking, oh, well, it doesn't look all that different from our film that we were watching last night when I saw it. But I don't know what it was or what it was called, but it was on Svengoolie tonight. Maybe somebody watched it while our other net was on. But in any case, I'm going to go to the top of the list. And here, I will open this question up to Bill, N5BB, since he was here and I did not call on him in the first round. Tell us about your favorite giant gorilla movie, Bill. N5BB, what do you got for us? What's your favorite gorilla monkey movie?
Oh my, this is N5BB. You're trying to limit it to gorillas? You've got the attack of the, whatever it was, 50-foot woman. You've got Godzilla and related Japanese creatures. You've got the original King Kong with Fay Wray, which I think was great. You got the remake with, Jessica Tandy? And I think there were later remakes which I never saw. And I didn't see this movie. That's my feeling about gorillas and other large creatures. There was also, besides the 50-foot woman, there was another one with a guy that also grew to immense size. I can't remember the name of that movie. I don't know. You've seen one, you've seen them all, Ken. Tom. You've seen one giant, you've seen them all. There's also, of course, the TV series with the visitors from Earth that are tiny compared to the giants. I can't think of the name of it. N5BB.
Oh, all right, Bill. I can't remember the name of the movie either, but it was filmed here in Dallas, Fort Worth. So, yeah, but I can't recall the name of the film. But, well, you could have also named Planet of the Apes. I mean, that's always a great film, having to do with gorillas and orangutans and others in funky suits. That was pretty good. And we had the Statue of Liberty. Oh, I hope that was... Sorry, that was a spoiler alert for those of you who have never seen the movie. Like you lived in a penal colony all your life. But, yeah, that's a favorite of mine as well. Let's see. Let's move to Bill, W5BLT. Bill, now we're going to talk about the characterization. About 10 different people in the film. That's about it. Maybe some extras that really didn't have anything to say. Although there are some notable people that were in the film, in case you were wondering, and I will mention those when I think of it. Otherwise, you can Google your heart away and use that as the fodder for discussing characterization when it comes your turn. So, Bill, W5BLT, what did you think of characterization of the acting in King Kong from 1976 from KP5ICX?
I should have gone back and reviewed the characters. I don't know. I didn't like the guy that was the main character that the woman was after. And I'm sorry, I'm bad with names and I don't have them in front of me. I didn't care about any of these guys. And I suppose, you know, being the blind guy, I missed out on the chorus girl singing. And not sure that would have improved the movie for me, but you know, I think it was just kind of hard because we've seen the plot done so many times, and the jokes are so bad. I just didn't care about the characters at all, and I think I was supposed to feel bad for the main character that the Queen Kong loved. But I just couldn't get into it. W5BLT.
That was so weak, Bill. I was expecting more from you. I was expecting more from the film, which means I expect even more from you to help prop up this film. But that's okay. Next up is Virginia, NB5F. Virginia, there was a scene in the movie with a monument to bagpipes, and they never really made that interesting. They only mentioned it once. It seemed like it could be an ongoing gag. So, Virginia, what do you think? What's funny about bagpipes? And do you like gorilla movies from KE5ICX?
K5ICX, this is NB5F. Well, I like gorilla movies okay. I do remember the 70s remake of King Kong, and I remember seeing it on television a few years later, and I was really young, so I liked it. I thought it was exciting and interesting, and wasn't really familiar with of course, the original King Kong movie or the other remakes before that, but I remember liking that one. One of my other favorite giant gorilla movies is The Incredible Shrinking Woman, where Lily Tomlin gets smaller and smaller, and she gets put in a science lab because she's shrinking, and she makes friends with a gorilla that's being studied in the lab, and the gorilla kind of helps her escape and get away from the scientists who are going to study her as she shrinks. So that's one of my favorite giant gorilla movies. Bagpipes. Well, bagpipes are interesting because they are simultaneously very stately and dignified, and also very, very funny. People who are playing them generally look kind of funny while they're playing. It's hard to play a bagpipe and look really cool while you're doing it. And the sounds they make are pretty hilarious, especially if you don't know how to play one, or if you're just have something go wrong, or if you know, any kind of mishap with a bagpipe will often lead to very funny sounds. And they're just big, kind of funny-looking instruments. They're kind of like temperamental animals. If there's a more temperamental musical instrument, someone needs to let me know, because I have not come across one. Anyway, so those are some pretty funny, and guys who play them generally are wearing what we consider to be skirts, even though I've gotten used to seeing dudes in kilts. But so you generally have to dress kind of funny when you play bagpipes, so that makes them funny too. So yeah, that's my short version of why bagpipes are funny, and I do think they're funny. K5ICX NV5F.
All right, well, thank you, Virginia. I thought I'd ask that question. You know, they say the same thing about drummers, too, you know, so there's jokes there as well. Probably some of the same jokes. But, okay, very good. Well, you came to my rescue. You offered up some comments. we'll see what else I can get you to answer to a little bit later if I can squeeze some blood out of this rock. Let me see here. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think of the characterization? We know how much you liked the movie, and you were just so involved and really excited about it, because we were chatting back and forth last night while we were watching this fine film. Well, I fell asleep for a little bit and woke up, and nothing really happened. So I don't think I missed anything. But yeah, tell me, what did you think about the characterization from KB5ICS?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I think it's kind of funny. The main female, her name is Loose Habit. It's just so cheap. And then the guy is Ray Fay. Take off on Fay Ray. So, I mean, these just hit you in the face like a pie. Everybody was pretty cardboard. There wasn't much in the way of character development. They're just singing and marching and whatever it is that they're doing. So I just didn't see much in the way of characterization at all. I did like the singing nun, and because it was a song about airplanes, all kinds of airplanes. You know how I feel about airplanes. Had another character her character name was I'm a Good Body. Really? There are lots of young ladies in this whose apparently main talent was dressing scantily. So, work for people that need it. Wikipedia, there's an interesting story here. The film has a cult following in Japan. In 1998, a troupe of Japanese comedians produced their own Japanese dialogue for the film. Actually, if I spoke Japanese, I think I'd like to see that. Okay, that's all I'll say for now. WB5OZL.
Okie doke. Thank you, Brenda. I guess that was a response back. Yeah. Okay. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your comments on, let me see, characterization or the acting in this fine film called Wing Kong from 1956. It's from KB5ICS. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, yeah, I think as I said, the characters were pretty boring. I guess maybe our male antagonist maybe had the biggest journey, I guess, but I found him kind of annoying and didn't really care for it. A couple of the actors in this film, I did recognize them. They weren't the kind of actors where I would have known their names, but I have seen them in other stuff, and I didn't Google it. I probably should have, because a couple of them I did recognize, but their acting in this wasn't anything real notable. They didn't clearly. I don't think comedy is their thing, so not a whole lot to add there. I do, the airplane comment. I do remember seeing that and I thought, well, this really seems out of place in this movie. But yeah, I didn't go look up the years. I didn't realize this actually came out before Airplane. So I guess there is a notable comment there, but it did just seem kind of out of place. But yeah, I don't know. This was just kind of rough. Not a lot to say about characters. Wish I could come up with something more entertaining, but not a lot to say on this one. So yeah, back to net. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, you have points there. Let's see. Let me go ahead and open it up and ask if there's any additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, we'll talk about tonight's movie, which is Queen Kong from 1976. Please come with your call sign now. Your name is Did You See the Film?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw the film.
You finally decided to join us. I understand you phone in a glass of milk or worse. So tell us about that, and then you've got to tell us two things. What did you think about the plot and then characterization of this fine film, because you did see it. KI5 KWG from KE5 ICX. Go ahead, Cruz.
KI5 KWG. So, Tommy, like guerrilla movies. I was so excited at the beginning of this because it had been literally 2 weeks maybe since we've had attractive girls in jungle skin bikinis. So we were long overdue. And so that was the opening scene. I'm like, hey, this is going to be great. And I started taking notes, and then there's just like nothing. Just nothing. Something about apparently royalty problems for getting copies to Yakety Sax. I decided for characterization that this thing had been filmed in one day because apparently they used the first take, only take for every single scene. There was no acting in this film. And the writing, well, there was no writing in this film. It was awful, really, truly awful. So that's pretty much what I had on both plot and characterization. I think I've got one favorable comment that I'm saving for part 3, but that's all I've got. KI5 KWG, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Cruz. Well, I was expecting more, but that's okay. We were all expecting more, but we didn't get it. Especially came to this film. Well, let's see, my comments. A couple of things. Valerie Leon, who played the Queen of the Nalbangas, she was in James Bond movie, I think it was. The Spy Who Loved Me. Oh, she was in several, 2. She was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Never Say Never Again in 1983. That was the remake of Thunderball, I think it was. She's also appeared in Revenge of the Pink Panther, the Italian Job, the original one, Wild Geese, and they call her the English Raquel Welch. So she was kind of a semi-A-list actress who was in it. Then they also had John Cleese, who is the comedian. He's the guy that I think was the announcer. He was in several things. Let's see, he was in the Pink Panther Strikes Again, Clockwork Orange, The Italian Job himself, and Yellow Submarine. So, and the Young Indiana Jones Chronicle. So there you go. Here's another actor who was in some films that weren't all that bad. So I don't know, but I don't recall or remember. Well, I do remember Valerie Leon. I looked her up because I recognized the name. So, but John Cleese, Clive, I didn't know anything about. But now I do, and that's very, very exciting. And I'm sure all the crew girls, Vicky, Anna, Geraldine, and Jenny, Jeannie, were all there probably from being in some sort of exploitation film. Oh, there is nothing on that one, nothing on that one. See if I get a hit on any of them. There's Ann Bergman got something. She was in Penelope Pulls It Off, Adventures of a Taxi Driver. I won't tell you what kind of film she's weird. I think you can figure it out yourself. Intimate Games, Come Play With Me, and What's Up, Super Doc. I'll let you leave it to your imagination what type of films those were. Then we also had Vicki Michelle. Vicki Michelle. She was in played against Sam. With Dudley Moore. Oh, that was on the West End. That was on Broadway or on theaters. She had a small role in Space 1999 in The Sentinel and Spectre with John Hurt, and appeared in an episode of The Goodies. See, these are people that actually did something. She was in The Greek Tycoon with Anthony Quinn, which is a really exciting movie if you're bored out of your mind and live in a penal colony somewhere, and that's the only thing you have for entertainment. That's just the movie. Everybody probably was a terrible actor. Robin Askwith was also in, I think, some adult movies as well. I don't know, but that's sort of said somewhere. As the Braves say. But none of them actually had anything that I would call really good acting. I kind of like the police officer, the one that was giving the reports from his police car as he looked out his window and sees the destruction of London. He was pretty cool. I liked him. He was fun to watch. But he was just there. They don't even mention him in the credits here at all. He's not even in the main cast, even though he shows up more than some of the people that are listed here. But what do you say? What do you do? Not the name of it. Don't know. Don't care. Oh, well, we'll get to the technical aspects of it, because there were some problems with that. Okie dokie. Let me go back to, let's see, the top of the list. Let me see, what questions can I ask Bill? Think for a second. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to Bill and Garland first, and then I'm going to ask Bill and Irving a question. I've got to figure out what I'm going to ask them. So this round, we're going to go ahead and talk about the special effects, and there were many. I don't know if they were special. Let's call them effects. There were many effects in this film. You can also talk about the music, which there was some. You can also talk about anything else you want to about this film. So we'll start with Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what do you got for us?
Man, I'm going to disappoint you again. Yeah, you know, the songs, they weren't really memorable. I mean, some of it was kind of, I guess, crude. So I don't know. Like I said, I kept thinking they were trying to be similar to like a Monty Python skit or something like that, I suppose. You know, maybe I don't understand British German humor, but I suppose maybe they had some visual special effects, like you know, with the Queen Kong and you know, things like that, and the airplanes going in and attacking and things like that. But yeah, it I'll let everybody else talk about the visual aspect of it. I mean, it had a soundtrack and it had songs and it had dialogue, so it was better than the one that we watched with Raquel Welch, which had no dialogue that I could understand. So at least it had that going for it. But kind of wish it didn't have any dialogue. Maybe it reversed the two films. So, sorry to disappoint you yet again, Tom. W5BLT.
Okay, that's okay, Bill. Well, I've got news for you. I got a better movie for you next week. I'm going to hold it until the end of this net to tell you, but it's actually something that is watchable for the first time in a couple of weeks. So be ready. Okay, let's see here. Bill, if you were to make a movie about gorillas, what movie would you make? N5BB from KE5ITX.
Ooh, this is N5BB. By the way, your earlier question, I thought you were talking about large animals. Then you started talking about smaller gorillas, like, you know, Beyond the Planet of the Apes, so you confused me. If I was going to make a movie about gorillas, now, is this large gorillas or regular size typical gorilla-sized gorillas, Tom. N5BB.
Well, Bill, that all depends, because there could be large-sized gorillas that aren't giant gorillas, but are bigger than people, so that would make them large-sized gorillas, but then the gorillas would actually be average size, because gorillas are bigger than people. So I leave that to you. Now, you could have a small gorilla, I suppose. I don't think I've ever seen a movie with a small gorilla before. I have seen a movie with a gorilla with a space helmet on it. That was interesting, and he was large, but I don't think that applies here. So I'll leave it to you. What do you think? What size gorilla do you think you would have in your movie, and what would that gorilla do from KE5IC?
I think orangutans are better. Remember those Clint Eastwood movies with Sandra Locke?
Oh, good answer. Continue.
Yeah, those are much better. I mean, the orangutans seem to be more inventive in doing things. Their hands and feet seem to be, really neat at doing things. They're prehensile. They can do all kinds of neat things with them. They've got great facial expressions. They've got interesting looking color. I think orangutans are much more interesting than gorillas as far as that. The gorilla's face isn't all that expressive. If you ask me, I mean, as a human, I don't find the gorilla's face all that expressive. They kind of seem a little more, they may be smart, but they look a little dumber. I don't know. Who am I to talk about gorillas? I would not make a movie about gorillas. Personally, I wouldn't make any movie. Sorry to be difficult, Tom. N5BB.
Well, now, Bill, I have to disagree with you, because, there was Planet of the Apes, and there was the TV series Planet of the Apes, and they had a gorilla that was in every episode, going after the two astronauts, the two really boring astronauts in the TV series. And that gorilla, which I can't remember which one it was, but it was played by Mark Leonard, who was the Spock's father. So if you can play Spock's father, you can play a gorilla in a futuristic science fiction film. Well, you got it made, man. So I don't know how that all worked out. And don't forget, Mark Leonard also appeared as sort of a gorilla, Klingon in Star Trek The Motion Picture. That you didn't know that either. So you've got some really interesting little factoids there. So, okay, I got you down. We'll see what we can do with you on the next round. Next is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, let's see, what question could I ask you? Talk about this. So, let's see, you play the bagpipes, but I think you play other instruments, don't you, Virginia? And what are they? And which ones do you find most interesting? Which I would guess would be the bagpipes, but it might be something else. Because you're a multi-talented, multifaceted, multi-person. Probably have a multi-pass, too. So tell us, Virginia, what else do you play as instruments?
K5ICX. This is ND5F. Well, I play the piano, and I started that. I messed around with it when I was a kid, and then when I was in grad school, I needed an elective, so I took piano, and I discovered I really enjoyed piano, and so I got to where I was playing pretty neat things, Mozart and Bach and stuff like that. And then I started to play the recorder because I really like early music, so I taught myself the recorder, and I joined the university early music group. Because by then it was a few years later, and I had started to do a music major because I was working at the university in southern Mississippi, in Hattiesburg, and I wanted to do music while I was there because I was already there working during the day, and so I taught myself the recorder, and then I was taking piano lessons and doing my piano proficiencies, and then I discovered the bagpipes. So those are my three main instruments, and I don't know, bagpipes are cool, they're unusual, but I have taken some courses on piano repair and maintenance and tuning, and I do think pianos are very interesting as far as just how they work, all the mechanics in there that have to work. And the repertoire, of course, is wonderful, and I'm a very delinquent piano player, so please don't ask me to play anything. I don't even own a piano right now, so anyhow, that's my instruments, KE5ICX, NV5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia. I just suspected that you played more than one instrument. You are very talented, and you are quite amazing with all of your talent. You are a Renaissance woman, and I think that's really interesting. You mention these things, and some of the stuff I've seen online really amazes. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think about, let me see, the music, the special effects, anything you would like to bring out about this film that we've not discussed so far, or something you just want to bring up because you want to shake your fist and say, I could have been somebody, I could have been a contender, or something like that. Maybe, well, you tell me, Brenda, WB5OZL from KE5ICX.
WB5OZL. Well, one time we watched this movie, which is probably one of the best movies we've ever watched, called Robot Monster, and it featured Roman, R-O-M-A-N, and he was an alien. Basically, he was in a gorilla suit with a fishbowl helmet, and he lived in that cave in Griffith Park, the one that Batman used. And his mission was to kill all the people on Earth. There was one family left, but he fell in love with a daughter, so he spent a lot of the movie carrying her around. And I think she was, she's scantily clad, a red dress, of course. Very typical. Anyway, I understand the story was that, they didn't have anything else except this gorilla suit, so that's why he was a gorilla. And they got all their money's worth of it as they used a gorilla suit for many movies after that. Anyway, that's one of the best gorilla movies ever, in my opinion. And a typical gorilla, he's carrying the girl around because he is interspecies love thing. All right. Let's talk about singing nuns. You all remember the scene in Airport, 1979, Singing Nun. This is Helen Reddy, who was really a singer. But in 1980, an airplane, Maureen McGovern plays the nun on the plane. And then, but unless you're old like me, you may not remember the original Singing Nun in 1963. This actual nun recorded a pop song and it became #1, and she quit being a nun because she's going to be a rock star. She was a one-hit wonder. It was the only thing that she ever did of note. Tragically, she committed suicide a few years later. But anyway, I'm curious as to the development of so many singing nuns in the 60s and 70s, and we don't see any today, except Sally Field. Well, she was a flying nun. Did she sing too? I don't know. Anyway, kind of babbling. What else do I want to say about this movie? I think that's enough. Back to net, WV50ZL.
Yeah, I remember seeing the singing nun, and of course a few years later the flying nun. But yeah, when her death was the singing nun and her death, it had a very nunning effect on me when that happened. So yeah, I agree with you. Let's see. Let's say. Well, let me see if there's anybody. Oh wait. I still got. Oh, I've got two more people. Jeez, I'm falling behind here. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, anything you want to say about the movie? Special effects, the act. Well, we already did acting. Did we? Yeah, we did acting already. Or something about the film you thought was really cool. The miniatures, the gigantic things, the giant chair, the table. Whatever you want to talk about, Sean, from KE5I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, not a lot to say on special effects. Yes, they use lots of miniatures. It's very obvious they were miniatures. It's not particularly well done. I think one of the bills said something about this was done in a day, so I guess if that's the case, and that's pretty impressive. Yeah, the effects weren't so great. The singing wasn't so great. The musicals were pretty bad. Yeah, maybe the singing nun was the most notable. Yeah, as far as guerrilla type movies, I'm not a huge fan of them. Not the giant ones. I do agree Planet of the Apes was probably the best guerrilla movie if you want to go there. As far as giant creatures, I would go with probably Godzilla. When I was very young, I very much liked when I was a kid, I liked the Godzilla movies. Yeah, that's about it on that. Yeah, the music not particularly special, special effects not particularly special. Obviously a lot better giant creatures out there. So, not a lot to say. Back to that, KB9SOK.
Alright, thank you. We're trying really hard to find things to talk about on this film. And it is one of those where you have to really have to pull something out. Okay, next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, your comments on the film, and actually anything you want about the film. If it's special effects related, that's their feature on this round, but it can be anything you want, because quite honestly, there's not a lot to say. But you might have something to say, more than I may have to say, which would be great. So go ahead, from KE5IC. Cruz, where are you? Did you run off, or did you spill milk on your microphone, or did you take the microphone, rip it out of your radio, and toss it in the trash, because this discussion is so, lacking in material? Well, I'm looking for him over on chat somewhere to see if he shows up there to give me the lame excuse why he doesn't want to talk about this. But that's okay. All right, I'll make my comments. One of the things that I found kind of weird about the film is, not so weird, because really, this is true with really badly produced films, and that has to do with sound. Sound is the number one thing that we all notice immediately with films. And in some parts of the film, it was lacking. It obviously had some problems. Microphone placement was not that good. There was some echoing I could hear, some background noise as well. Also, of course, the actual filming is God, what is it with people in zoom lenses? They have a zoom lens and they got one camera. The zoom lens allows you to move from a headshot to a far shot to whatever you want. You can focus in one area and then move to another area, but gosh, when they do that, it just sucks. And it did in this film, particularly the city street kiosk scene. They did a lot of that. It drove me nuts. And then on the tugboat that we take across the ocean or whatever it was, or down to Africa or to the island, I don't think that tugboat would have gotten very far in reality, but I'm sure they rented it for the day. He was there somewhere in the harbor and used it for the thing. But at any rate, that was that. So those things bothered me. Special effects, pretty much any Godzilla movie has similar effects. So we had that, but I can't say that in any way, shape, or form it really added up to anything that was particularly memorable. Especially some of the blue screen, green screen shots. Oh, those were terrible. Golly. I got news for you today. I think that the green screen shots were even terrible back then. Probably done with a kinescope type thing where they filmed the camera, filmed the video screen in order to do that. It just looked terrible in low resolution. I mean, we do green screen stuff at work all the time, and without too much effort, it looks good. But of course, the film is so old. I imagine it has something to do with it. But even still, green screen could be done well if you wanted to. There was a couple of scenes in there where they show the gorilla. They bring him to England, and they're going to do the on display and chains thing, and they open the curtain like they did in the other two King Kong movies, and it skips with the picture. I mean, it was they rotoscoped in or looped in the Queen Kong into the thing, and the foreground picture actually skips and causes this weird kind of like gyration with the background parts that have been rotoscoped in, and it just looks really terrible. So, but it's a comedy, or trying to be a comedy, and it wasn't a very good one at that. And we ended up with what we saw. So, just about everything about the film was handled pretty ineptly. And I don't recall any really funny jokes in the whole thing, which is sad. Except that it was unintentionally terrible. And I guess it was funny in that way. But even then it was kind of not a ha-ha, it was more like a whatever. Okay, I've beat this dead horse. Does anyone, I'll go ahead and ask, does anyone have any comments they want to bring or any late check-ins? Now is your opportunity. Please come with your call.
KI5KWG, how about a status check on this radio?
Well, you complained of an audio problem earlier. Now I think it's just a signal strength problem. Your audio is okay, but there's a lot of noise. Want to try again?
KI5KWG, I'm going to call it a night until I get this thing worked out. Thank you, good night.
All right, okay, Cruz, I know how you feel. I hate it when that happens. You have problems with the radio. So I could hear you, but there is some noise in the background. I don't know if they're related. I don't think it's the same as the mic issue. I think it's just an audio. I think it's just a signal issue more than anything else. All righty, well, let's see here. Nobody else had any additional comments, so we're going to call this one done, as in overdone. Let me go to the website here. I know what it is. I just want to tell you that. Hold on. Facebook, Afterglow Movies. Looking under guides, and underneath guides, we've got. Here we go. Next week's movie will be the pilot, or actually the opening episode, which is two-parter of Buck Rogers and his 25th series that came out after Battlestar Galactica by Bruce Lansbury, I think it is. And this was an attempt at this. So that'll be our movie, parts 1 and 2. If you get through, called The Awakening. If you get through part 1 and you give up, that's fine. We'll talk about part 1. But we'll do part 1 and 2. That'll get you about an hour and a half. episode or movie out of it. That'll be next week. All that information, that's on Tubi TV, by the way, so it'll be a freebie. You can get all that information through the Afterglow Movies, Expo Movie, I should say, on the Facebook page, or send me an email to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and I will send that information to you directly if Facebook is not your bag or you just like to have the movie info pushed to you. I'll do that probably tomorrow morning when I get up. You'll have the information in your inbox. Well, it was one of those folks. Sorry this wasn't a good film. I have seen Buck Rogers. I think that'll be more fun and entertaining to talk about. See you all next week. Thank you all. Thank you to everybody who did the nets this evening. It's always great Saturday night to have something fun to do, and there's definitely that, even when, in our case, we get a bad movie. See you all next time. This is KE5ICX. I think I'm going to go sit down and rest my voice and watch the end of Kojak, the Night Stalker, and then watch a little Boston Space. I think the episode this evening is the Galaxy Gift with the Taurons. Is it the Taurons? They're the aliens with the derby hats and sing snow or something. Anyway, if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. See y'all later. KE5ICX, clear. See y'all.